Canada is reportedly urging the group of 7 members to collectively back a de-escalation of the war in Iran as foreign ministers meet in France. Member countries hoping to narrow differences with the US on the war while keeping other crises like Ukraine and Gaza high on the agenda. US Secretary of State Marco Rubio is expected to join talks tomorrow. Foreign ministers from non-G7 partner nations like India, Ukraine, Saudi Arabia and South Korea have been invited to join discussions as well. Nick Harper covering the story for CNA live from Washington, D.C. So, Nick, what is the plan? How does the U.S. expect to rally support for the war among this group?
Well, John, Marco Rubio will only be taking place in the second day of the summit on Friday, and he is likely to put forward a very strong defence of the US military action, essentially arguing that this has been a necessary conflict, that Iran posed too much of a threat not to be dealt with. What we have seen from other G7 partners and allies so far is an admission that they do not want to see Iran ever obtain a nuclear weapon, but we haven't exactly seen all of them throw their weight and support behind the US, saying that that US military action was necessary. And indeed, we're seeing Canada really trying to push for a de-escalation now. So I think those other countries will be looking to Marco Rubio and the US to try and get some clarity on this conflict and potentially also a timeline on when it could all end, because there is a fear that we may now be entering a phase of escalation rather than de-escalation. More than 1,000 troops heading to the region to add to the thousands that are already there. And there is a suggestion that they may go on the ground, that they may be deployed onto Karg Island in particular to try and secure Iranian oil infrastructure there and to seize it. So I think the G7 nations will be looking at all of this, being particularly worried about what comes next and trying to look to Marco Rubio to get explanations, but also clarity and some sort of reassurance that the US is trying to end this conflict rather than trying to ramp it up.
Now, there are reports that the US did pressure the G7 to disinvite South Africa from the June summit. Are you hearing more about these reports, and why is it significant?
That's right. The G7 presidency is held by France this year. So the Leaders' Summit will be taking place in June in France. And that gave Emmanuel Macron, France's president, the opportunity to invite other countries. We are told that he invited South African President Cyril Ramaphosa when the two of them met at South Africa's G20 summit last year, a summit that Donald Trump decided to boycott. But now South Africa is saying that South Africa has been disinvited, that France has withdrawn that invitation as a result of what South Africa is calling sustained pressure. A spokesperson for the presidency of South Africa saying, "We are told that America's threatened to boycott the G7 if South Africa was invited." Remember, there are rocky relations between Pretoria and Washington. We've seen the US accuse South Africa of white genocide in South Africa. We also know that the US has banned South Africa from coming to the G20 summit that will be held in Washington later this year. And there have been a particular emphasis on trying to get South Africa to respond to a whole list of other accusations from Washington. Remember, South Africa has also faced some of the heaviest tariff penalties placed on any country around the world. But this is certainly a very significant move. The fact that France's president is now having to withdraw that invitation as a result of pressure from the Trump administration.
Well, from Washington, D.C. live, Nick Harper, many thanks.